We're going to do a real quick demo for the crisp recipe. The first step is already done here. We've got this bowl of water with our lemon juice. Remember, you can use any kind of acidic juice just to help prevent browning. It's also going to help to add a little bit of flavor to our filling for our apple crisp. You're going to pare the skin here from your apple. And when you do that, you use your paring knife. Some of you did this with your potato. You just kind of have it here in your 4 fingers, and you're going to use your thumb to glide the knife between the skin and the flesh of the apple. If you have to give it a little stab there to get started. And notice the sticker's still on here. I didn't even wash this ahead of time because we don't want to be trying to cut something that's slippery and wet, and we're going to put it in this water and rinse it anyway, and so we don't need to worry about washing the outside or even peeling off the sticker for that matter, because we're going to cut it right off. So go ahead and do this just very gently. Remember, even if you did slip and bump into your finger, you're not pushing hard enough or going fast enough to cause any issues. Okay, you can go down or you can go around like that, or you can even go down, up and down, if that feels better for you. Okay, and you want to try to remove as little of the apple as you remove the peel. You don't want to take big chunks out of your apple. And I don't want to see you doing this whittling thing, okay? That's not safe or efficient, and we're not learning that technique, okay? All right, I'll be right back after I finish paring this to show you the next step. Okay, don't need to worry too much about all of the skin around the core. We're going to get that off here in the next step when we cut it. When you cut this apple, don't be silly and cut through the middle. You want to cut around the middle. If you cut through the middle, then you're going to have to spend time digging the core out, and that just doesn't make a lot of sense to me, when you could just cut around the core instead, okay? So you're going to make 4 cuts, starting one right next to the core. You get this nice slice of apple. Then you put your apple down on a flat surface. You don't want to fight with it like this. You created a nice stable surface. Speaking of stability, this towel stabilizing your cutting board needs to be completely soaked and then wrung out completely. Some of you were putting this weird version of a sort of damp, sort of dry, wet something towel, and that was actually making your cutting boards even more slippery. Okay, so we create stability when we're using our knife skills. Put that apple on that flat surface, cut next to the core again, not through it. Rotate that apple again, cut next to it, rotate it one more time, cut next to it. Now we've spent very little time removing the core from our apple. Remember to keep it clean. You want to get your scraps off to the side. Okay, we're really going to get some good practice in this recipe with this motion, and I want to see it happening. Some of you kind of skimped on that. I did see a lot of you doing these little cutting things in different times and tiny little pieces everywhere. We want to practice the skill, okay? And this apple is going to be one of the easiest things to do that with because it cuts nice. So this motion has to be forward, down, and back. Some of you were just doing this up and down thing with no glide against the cutting board. That rough surface of the cutting board helps to finish the cut, so you actually have to kind of give it that glide, okay? And this will be really good for practicing the claw. Forward, down, and back, okay? That was kind of a fast one. Let me slow it down. Forward, down, and back. Okay. Get your claw going on so you come up against your finger. Not going to cause any damage. Okay. Forward, down, and back. Once you get these all sliced, and notice I'm slicing them pretty thin, because that way they cook better in the microwave for this recipe. Go ahead and make yourself some little piles. You don't need to stack them up like this, okay? We're just getting them in this nice little pile. This is a rough dice. We're not going to get a cube here because it's already a rounded object, right? Okay, so you make your little piles, whatever you feel like you can handle, and you continue to dice across there, okay? All right, I'll be back here once I finish dicing. Okay, one last pile here left to dice. Notice that as I was getting my little piles, I was putting them right here in my bowl of water with my lemon juice. Okay, these are the sizes we're kind of going for. Pretty small. Small dice, small rough dice with no specific size or shape because of the apple being rounded. Okay, so Each person does their own apple. You're going to stick your apple in this bowl of lemon juice, and then you're going to strain it out into your own individual little dish here for your apple crisp. You're going to use a slotted spoon to do that. Spoon with holes or slots. Okay. You're not going to dump this into the colander because we don't want to waste this lemon juice water for the next person in our group. And now that this lemon juice is on my apples, it's on there and it helps keep that browning from happening. Okay, so we don't need to leave it in the lemon juice to prevent the browning. We just need to get it covered or soaked with it so that that lemony acid water is on your apple. Okay, but I'm a one-man band, so I don't need to keep this, but if I have partners, I need to keep this, and they would repeat that process. But I just need to add my filling ingredient, which is a tablespoon of sugar, regular white sugar, table sugar. Okay. We're going to do a dash of cinnamon. So when you do this, for this recipe, you're going to have cinnamon in two places, one in the filling and one in the topping. We just want a dash of cinnamon. Okay. If you're a cinnamon lover, do 2 dashes. Do not take this lid off for any reason. Okay, because what happens a few times is people forget to get it back on completely, and when you go to do your dash, you have an eruption of cinnamon. The bowl of cinnamon that will be nearby for the ingredients, there will be one for you to measure out of for the cinnamon you need in your topping, okay? But I don't want you to remove, I just want you to dash. Don't open this lid. Okay, and then in here we also need a half a teaspoon of vanilla. Okay, so you just do that real quick, and you're going to toss this around, which literally means just really quickly stir without mashing up any of these ingredients. So you don't want to break up your apples too much by stirring too hard or too quickly. You just kind of give it a quick toss. Okay, get that in there. You'll see some of the juice from the apples and from the water was kind of in the bottom. That's good. You want that in there because that kind of helps to create the substance around the apples. It pulls the juice out of the apples and gets kind of that nice, if you picture an apple pie, like that stuff that's in the apple pie around the apples, that yummy, gooey stuff. Okay, this lives over here just for a little bit. In our medium-sized bowl, we're going to make the filling for everyone in our group. So if I have 3 people, I'm going to put the filling ingredients, the topping ingredients in for each person, and then take them out once the crumb topping is made and spread them amongst each person's little dish, okay? So that you don't have to do this process individually 3 times, 2 times, how many ever people are in your group. So for this one, you definitely need to get this butter, and it has to be cold, okay? So the butter for this recipe is going to be in the fridge waiting for you to get it, a tablespoon per person. But then once you get that butter to your station, you need to cut it into a couple slivers, okay? Don't overthink this. Doesn't matter how many, just cut it down a little bit and work quickly with this. So you don't want to touch the butter a lot. You want to keep it cold as possible. Then you need to put 2 tablespoons of flour for each person in your bowl, 2 tablespoons of packed brown sugar, and 2 tablespoons of oats for each person in your bowl. Okay? 1, 2. Okay. 2 tablespoons of oats. When you measure oatmeal or things like oatmeal that are lumpy and bumpy, you can't use the leveler because when you do, it pulls out most of the stuff, right? Now my thing's not even full. You use this method, it's sort of like the tap and level, okay? And that's much better. 2 of those. Remember, when you measure brown sugar, it has to be packed well. So you can do that by scooping and pushing on the side of the container that you're measuring from, and then using your leveler. Oops, get back here, buddy. That's good. Okay. And now, again, it says to toss these ingredients around in a big bowl like this where you have room to actually toss them. You could do it that way. You're just trying to get that butter covered with some of the stuff before you use the pastry blender. Okay? So you could actually toss it just like that. Okay. To cut in If a recipe tells you to cut in the butter, they're usually referring to a mixture like this where you have chunks of cold butter. Use this tool called a pastry blender to get in there and cut that butter down into tiny sized pieces that will be then covered with all of the parts of the topping. And that way when it cooks, instead of like when you cream butter in cookies or melt it and use it in a recipe, you'll have like a crumbly topping rather than like a cakey cookie type texture. Okay, use this with like a rounded motion like this. You kind of get in there, use the edge of the bowl to rock back and forth while you're turning the bowl. Okay, and every once in a while you gotta kind of get in there and clean that pastry blender out until the butter gets small enough to stop getting stuck to it. Okay, remember, if you have a group of 2 or 3, you're gonna have multiple amounts for this, but you're gonna do this all at the same time so that you don't waste time doing this for each person. Okay, so you want to, oh, I forgot the cinnamon. Okay, hang on. But you need a teaspoon. Oh no, still a half a teaspoon in this one. Okay, so you're going to measure this cinnamon out of the bowl that's available. So we're not taking the lid too much on and off for our container of cinnamon. Okay, back to that. Get in there. Once this looks like a sprinkleable texture, meaning like, yeah, okay, I could pick that up and sprinkle it on there pretty effectively, you're done. Your arm's going to feel it a little bit. That's going to be a little bit of a workout. Okay, and so then you can either grab with your fingers and sprinkle it on. Remember, you're spreading this between each other's batches of apple crisp, so don't put all of it on yours if you have a partner or partners. And there you go. That's ready to go in the microwave for 3 minutes on high. And then it needs to stand for 3 to 5 minutes, not just to cool, but to finish cooking. Just like anything that comes directly out of the heat source, it continues cooking. It doesn't just automatically go from cooking to not cooking. It's like if you watch cookies, when you take those out of the oven, they change in texture and appearance because as they cool, they also continue or finish cooking. So standing time in the microwave is especially important. All right, I'm gonna go stick this in there and I'll be back. The goal here is, while your stuff is in the microwave and doing the standing time, is to get yourself completely cleaned up so that all you have to do is enjoy your hard work. But remember, you want to keep your dishwater because you're going to need to clean the bowls. And as far as cleaning the pastry blender, get him soaking in your dishwater, and then when you go to clean it, just kind of do this, help him clean himself instead of trying to get your sponge in those little cracks. Okay, that's how you clean this pastry blender. Just whirl it around in there after it's been soaking for a little bit. All right, I'll be back to show you what this looks like with some a la mode.